Welcome in, everybody, to Trust the Board. It's crazy. The 2026 NFL draft has come and gone. We're already looking at 2027. But in this episode, Ryan and I are going to go through some draft classes that we liked, some ones that we didn't like, some ones that we're kind of in the middle on. Maybe we like a couple of picks, but we didn't know what these teams were doing outside of that. Ryan, how are you doing? And I guess you can get us kicked off with a class that you liked or maybe hated.
Well, I think we should start with the positive, and then we'll wash things down with the negative at the end. I'm doing pretty good. Draft was fun. I was at my day job for the first 2 nights of it, but I work at a TV station, so it was on. I was
Mhm.
able to follow along pretty easily and still do my required tasks at my main job. But I had a lot of fun. I thought it was really fun. And then Saturday we went over to a friend we made, Cam White. We met him at the Senior Bowl. He actually lives like 3 blocks down from me. I found out. So
Nice.
uh, we went and had day three over at their house and just watched all of it. And the girlfriends kind of nodded their head and ate snacks. And then occasionally we would just be like, "Good pick, terrible pick. What are they doing? Why is this guy still here?" And they would just be like, "Yep, this is fun." But they're good sports. They both are pretty supportive, and at least my girlfriend likes baseball, so I got that going in that relationship. We both enjoy baseball, even though we are Mariners fans, which means a lot of pain and anguish mostly. But it's turning things around.
I did join a fantasy baseball league just with my friends.
Oh,
Like we all put a couple bucks in. My team is in first right now. It's rotisserie scoring, I think
yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm not fully certain how it works, but
Oh,
I'm
if you need tips, I'll help you because I never play it consecutive years because I can never get enough
yep,
people to buy in to do it multiple years. It's like every 3 or 4 years I can find like 10 guys that are like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then it's just kind of a waiting game, but a
yep,
lot of fun, a lot of work. But as far as drafts that we like, I don't know if I have these like ranked really yet. I'm still kind of
yeah.
digesting a lot of them. But there are teams that I just generally have in the like tier. And so maybe we just start early in the draft. And I think the first one that I want to bring up, uh, as no knowing that is this is for a lot of folks, and I don't want this to seem like we're doing this for clicks, but I really like the Chiefs draft. Uh, they went a different way than I think people were expecting. The common narrative that what I was hearing was, the Chiefs, they have this great system on defense. They don't need to draft defensive backs highly. They can find guys in the like fourth and fifth, turn them into awesome stars. They just did that last year with a cornerback out of Cal, and they're doing it again. They did it when they won their Super Bowls, when they had that little run the last time. So they ended up shocking everybody, trading up, getting Mansour Delane as their first overall pick, which arguably the best corner in the draft. And so if you liked defensive backs in Steve Spagnuolo's scheme, generally, now imagine what that might look like if he can start adding some blue chippers back in there. They did just kind of get rid of Trent McDuffie, who some might argue is, but I think Mansour Delane is just a different style of cornerback and a different something they haven't really had since like maybe if you want to say Snead got there before his free agency and sudden downturn. So I just think that's a lot of fun. On top of it, they just added a lot of guys that we like. You know, Emmett Johnson's a fun little running back to add with Kenneth Walker. I think they have a fun combo there at running back. Cyrus Allen is a guy that we both liked from the Senior Bowl. He maybe wasn't like the top of our list, but we liked him as a potential slot guy. Peter Woods, I mean, he was a potential top 5 pick heading into last summer, at least on everybody's boards, and to get him at 29 feels like a pretty good, like, value for where he was. I know that he's not everyone's cup of tea, but his tape prior to 2025 was, like, pretty fun, so I'm just personally thinking that the Chiefs is actually a great spot for him. I feel like he's the next Chris Jones, who also had a lot of the same concerns coming into the league, as far as just people thought he was a little aloof at times, took plays off, didn't wasn't always playing up to his obviously freak potential. And we saw how that turned out. So obviously, it's not a guarantee with Peter Woods, but I just think that's a fun fit. Jaden Kennedy is a really fun nickel corner from Oregon. I don't know. And then to get Nussmeier in the 7th is just like a guy to stash, have in the room. That's, I don't know. That just feels like the cherry on top for a weird draft class in general.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs killed it. There's a reason that they've won several Super Bowls over the last decade, and if you're going to continue to support Patrick Mahomes as he enters his 30s, this is as good of a draft as you could ask for. I mean, getting Mansour Delane, phenomenal. Trading back up and getting Peter Woods, I agree that the landing spot for Peter Woods would be Kansas City. Chris Jones wasn't himself last year, and he's definitely reaching that weird age where defensive tackles, a lot of them do start to fall off. So I like that for Kansas City. R. Mason Thomas was a great get in the second round. I like that as well. There were a lot of things that they did that I liked. I mean, literally, even at the end, you touched on Johnson, Allen, and Nussmeier. To get all three of them on day 3, I think that Nussmeier was like a big faller. Some of the quarterbacks that got drafted over him, I'm thinking of Kalamakis from Rutgers.
Yeah.
That was wild. That was a bit wild. So I think you're getting a good upside shot in Nussmeier, if nothing else. I think he's a much better player than the guy that the Commanders drafted. But I unfortunately really, really liked what the Cleveland Browns did. And I said this to Ryan before we started recording. I think if you were going to tell me that there's only one GM in the NFL that really pays attention to what media and what, mock drafts say and stuff like that, and you told me it was Andrew Berry, I wouldn't even doubt it. I think Andrew Berry always drafts well in the minds of draft people like us. Spencer Fano, you traded down a couple of spots and you were still able to get a really, really good offensive tackle. He was the first offensive tackle off the board, correct? I'm not losing my mind.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if that's what they do end up using him for, and I think that is what they announced him as. He again, I just you got to put an asterisk on him. He is one of my favorite linemen in this draft, but I do wonder if he's there was a lot of questions about is he really a guard, and so I think he's about to get the Will Campbell treatment of maybe not as high as 4, so it's not quite as hard.
Yeah.
But we're gonna see if the length is an issue in the NFL, and if it is, you know, it's going to be just like with Will Campbell, where we're like, all right, maybe put him into a different spot. He seems to be struggling when he's not 100%. At least that was the case with Will Campbell. He was fine at the start of the year, and then when he got banged up, you really saw a drop in play. And I think a lot of that has to do with the stuff that you're able to do that you might have a physical disadvantage for when you're healthy becomes much harder when you're not healthy, and it's football. So, you know, but go on. This is a really good class, I think, up until I don't really care for the back half, other than a couple. I do like the last
Yeah.
tight end they took, but I
There
do think this is
were
a top heavy class.
I would definitely agree with you. There were a couple day 3 picks that I liked, but I think Casey Concepcion was a bit of a shock to some people, but Concepcion was right in that range with Omar Cooper, guys that were going to go late first. And especially when you stack him with Denzel Boston, who fell out of the first round and fell to Cleveland in the second. I think when you stack Concepcion and Boston on the same team, where they really had nobody outside. You're looking at Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, that kind of player. That's who the Browns had running routes for them out wide. Concepcion in Boston is a big upgrade from what they had. I really liked that. Then you're able to go and get Emmanuel McNeil Warren in the second round as well, which I could not believe that he fell this far. He felt like, at least on draft day, pretty much a lock to go night 1. But, we saw Downs fall to 11. I feel like we do this every year with safeties where there are a lot of good ones and we're hyping them up and, oh, we're going to have a couple go first round. It didn't happen this year. You had Caleb Downs, you had Dylan Theineman falling all the way to the Bears at 26. And then Emmanuel McNeil Warren fell pretty far down in the second round. So I thought that was a really huge get. That's the guy that's going to start day 1 for you on your defense and be an impact player. I really liked that. A couple of the day 3 picks that I like, Parker Brailsford, I thought was a good get in the 5th round. He's listed as a center. That's what he played in college. I think you can kick him outside to guard if you really wanted to. But I think that he could one day develop into, a starting interior offensive lineman for you. I like that in the 5th round. Taylon Green was really interesting in the 6th round. We have to mention Taylon Green. I
Mhm.
feel like we've talked about him quite a bit on this podcast. Browns have become the first team, I think, ever to draft 3 quarterbacks in 2 drafts. So good for them, I guess. Taylor Green, not sure what you're going to do in Cleveland, unfortunately.
I mean, this is the team that turned Pryor into a wide receiver, right? Well, I guess
Yeah,
he came from the Raiders first. They did that first,
maybe that's your
but he
chance.
had his best season with the Browns.
Yep.
So, you know, there's I mean, he's probably going to play quarterback. I feel like we've seen this mode, this like mold of quarterback go to the Browns before, and they just haven't done anything with it. Obviously, it's a new coaching staff yet again, but well, I don't know about that one. I do like Carson Ryan. I don't love him landing here when they also took another tight end earlier and already have Harold Fannin. There might be more, 12 or 13 personnel plans in Cleveland's future, but I don't know. So the Browns are good. But my thing is, and I'm trying to decide if this is my analyst brain or my division rival fan brain. But I just also am just seeing so many scenarios where it's like I like some of these players, but they landed in Cleveland, and what could go wrong?
Yep.
I'm just like thinking of
That's
all the
fair.
scenarios of like if they didn't work out, what would be the reasoning? And like, you know, I don't know if that's just the stench of Cleveland on them and how that organization has been running. But like you mentioned, it does seem smart on paper. So they still got to get a quarterback. I don't think anything on this team runs right until then. Even if the defense is really good, it's like the offense is until we see something from somebody they got or they get somebody else. I don't know. Not my favorite, but I get why people say it is.
Yeah, completely fair.
All right, if we want to go back to another one I like, let's go. We've done some heavy, we've been kind of AFC heavy early, so let's go NFC. I really liked. I think the Saints draft was a draft that I found to
I was going
be
to mention them.
a
I
fun
like
one.
that.
They're starting to get their self out of cap hell. They've been in that for a few years, and they're starting to do normal things. I feel like I don't remember the last time the Saints had these many picks. And they made most of them. And so I think if you just look at their first three, that's a really intriguing class right there. That in the first round they took Jordan Tyson. Um, he's I feel like he's got some overlap with Chris Olave in both strengths and weaknesses, but I think it's going to be interesting, and you can't say that they're not trying to find out if Tyler Shuck is really a guy because they also in the third round take Oscar Delp, and so now you've got, and then later in the fourth they take Bryce Lance, who can be a vertical physical threat where they don't really have that guy, so it's an attempt to make a sort of rounded pass catching group that I find really intriguing. They also brought in Noah Fant, so they've got another athletic tight end that they can deploy. So I just think that's going to be if Tyler Shuck doesn't work out, it's not for lack of trying from the Saints. So I do like that aspect of it. Christian Miller is nose that I really liked. I didn't think the Steelers were in the market for a nose this year, so I didn't hype him too much on over on behind the steel curtain. But I do think he's a really fun player, and I just like them adding that there. Jeremiah Wright is a huge man. He's kind of old for a prospect. I think he was one of the guys that was going to be 25 or was already 25. But he's a giant, giant dude. And then I can't really say much about Lorenzo Styles Jr., Barry Brown, or TJ Hall. They were not guys that I was doing a lot of work on, but just for that first four rounds, I think the Saints, in a division that's as wide open as any, are putting themselves in a position to find out if they've got the guy.
I like it. I like the Tyson and Olave marriage. I like it with Tyler Shuck. They went out and signed Travis Etienne. Saints are going to be fun. And they seemed
I hope so.
so dead like a year ago. I feel like we were talking about the Saints, one of the worst teams in the league. They're going to have to tank. Nobody liked the Tyler Shuck pick. And all of a sudden, a year later, we're like, damn, the Saints. So that's interesting. Good for them. I'll keep it in that same division. I know you mentioned them before we started recording, so this will give us a chance to talk about them. The Buccaneers, I
Ooh,
really liked what they
second
did.
division.
Getting Reuben Bain at 15 was the best value of the first round, I think. I don't know that it's really close. I loved that for them. Getting Josiah Trotter in the second round, again, loved that for them. Then in the third round, you take Ted Hurst, who I'm not the highest on, but it's a fun shot in the third round. He's going to be your deep guy, your go up and get it guy. We'll see what they can do to develop him. Fourth round, they got Keontae Scott, who was a big faller. I think that most people had him projected as a second or third round guy. He falls all the way to you in the fourth round. I thought that was really fun too, just off those first four picks right there. I mean,
Mhm.
they were going crazy, all in. I love all four of those picks.
Yeah, and then the back half is interesting too in a way. Capehart was, if I'm remembering right, he was pretty athletic. I mean, the Clemson defense in general was not great this year, but you look at a guy who's got traits. Capehart was up there. I think he was a little older too. Shroff, his whole thing is like, will he stay healthy? If he's healthy, he's awesome. He's a power scheme guard, and it's just, can he stay healthy? And then Bauer Sharp was an interesting guy. I was looking at him when I was trying to figure out who my tight end gems were and who was going to be going late in the draft. And physically, I see what is intriguing about him. But boy, LSU fans sure didn't seem to like him. Every tweet I found about him was like, of course, Bauer Sharp fumbles. Of course, Bauer Sharp drops that like. So I don't know. Um, people in the bayou didn't seem to care for him too much. So but it's the sixth round and you're throwing darts. And so I think that is, yeah, I kind of, the main thing for me was the Ruben Bain pick. And I would be curious to like go through all the old archival footage of all the guys who went up to the stage pissed off and just like see how many of them turned out to be awesome and how many of them it was like just smoke on the draft night. And then I want to find, like, I want to know that data. I want to know what the correlate, like, what's the ratio of like awesome career Hall of Famer to he was just acting like a tough guy on draft night and then never backed this up.
Yeah, I could not believe that he fell to 15, to be
That
perfectly honest
was
with you. I think on our consensus big board, was he the top player?
For
I
us,
think
he
it
was the top player, and I know that there was a lot of other ones where he was, at least in the top 3 to 5, right? So, like, it's a combination, I think, of people being panicked about the arms a little bit, and then obviously the reporting that came out just before the draft about, which apparently every team already knew. So maybe it wasn't that it came out then, maybe that was already factored into their evaluations. But of the driving incident where
yeah.
unfortunately he was in an accident, and very, very murky around it. He, in a court of law, he faced no charges. So interesting situation. So there's a chance he fell for because of that. But if we're just purely talking like football, I know there are people concerned about the arms. I just that's he's not winning from long arms. He's not winning from twitchy speed. He's winning from something that almost always translates, which is just like power. And he can convert speed to power. And you can watch him get underneath much longer offensive linemen. And I just don't think it's going to be as big of an issue as teams afraid to make an outlier pick will have let it be.
Yeah, I agree. I I like Bane. I like that one a lot. So, are there any other ones that stuck out to you in particular that you wanted
I
to point
mean,
out?
yeah, there's a couple that if maybe we just do a few quick hitters, we don't have to necessarily dive through all of them. The Jets, I think, were an interesting class. You can debate Bailey versus Reese all you want. I probably wouldn't have taken Bailey there. I probably would have gone Reese. But the rest of their picks, it was almost like they were just like, all right, now we're just gonna take fun players. They went and took Kenyon Sadiq, which gamble, it's kind of a Jetsy pick. But he's if he turns out great, you're setting it up the ecosystem for whoever the future quarterback's going to be. And I think when you then go out and you get Omar Cooper Jr., another one of our favorites, I think that makes it interesting. D'Angelo Pons, find me a draft analyst who didn't love D'Angelo Pons. Everybody loved him, so that's a cool nickel for him. They got Daryl Jackson Jr., super long armed nose tackle type. They had a hole in the middle after trading Quinn Williams. I don't know that Gerald Jackson's going to fill those shoes entirely, but we can do it in the aggregate. Uh, so that's what they're attempting to do. And then throwing Cade Klubnik, he's probably just only ever going to be a
It's
backup,
yeah.
but that's part of the class. Just running through real quick. They took Anez Cooper, Miami guard, and then one of my favorites, another one that fell, and it's one of those where I'm just scratching my head. There's always a few every year where you like really enjoy someone's tape, and then the NFL, just for whatever reason, is like, we can wait, and that's VJ Payne, their last pick. Um, Player who I would have loved for the Steelers have taken, you know, a few picks earlier in the sixth. But awesome player in my opinion. We'll see what he turns into. Um, Another one that I thought was fun, especially considering that they didn't have a huge class, was the Commanders. Obviously, first getting Sonny Styles in the first. I know that was a guy you were a fan of. You want you have any insights on Sonny Styles you want to share? As
I
this is probably
mean,
the last time we'll talk about him.
this was the guy that everybody came to see at the combine. Whenever they opened up the stadium and they were doing the drills, this is the guy everybody stayed till damn near 11 p.m. to watch him run the 40-yard dash. He is a creative player. I feel like people use that term a lot, but like he is the truest definition of that I have ever seen. I don't think it's Isaiah Simmons situation with him where he could, play safety. Sure, he could play safety. He's got the physical tools, but this is a game-changing off-the-ball linebacker. I love Sonny Styles. His pro comp, I'm looking at it right now, is Fred Warner. Sure, whatever you want your pro comp to be,
Really high ceiling.
he can be whatever. He is the high ceiling guy. I liked that the Commanders went that route, went defense. I think that's a fun fit.
Yeah, Antonio Williams, I'm a little less on him as much as everybody else, but I mean that is a team where he's gonna get a shot to contribute. They have nobody outside of Terry McLaurin that I think anybody would consider a viable threat. Joshua Josephs is a fun pass rusher to add in the mix. He's probably just a designated pass rusher right now, but Keyshawn Allen might be the starting running back there. I don't know. That there's a real possibility that ends up being what's happening there if they don't go find another way to acquire a different running back. So yeah, they're fun. Denver, I thought was pretty fun. I've been saying all draft that I thought Tyler Onyedem was being falsely misrepresented in mock drafts where he was going in the 7th round. To me, that was crazy. I thought this was more in line with where he would go, and so that was some cool validation. Their first 4 picks were all guys I just like Jonah Coleman. He's gonna be part of an infuriating Sean Payton running back committee now, but I mean he's a guy that I think is gonna win a lot of playing time just because he's dependable. Cage Casey, they announced him as a tackle. I think he can hang as a tackle, but I would love him as a guard. But whatever Denver's plan for him, I think they just got an awesome player. He was already a Bronco for coming from Boise State, so that's always a fun little thing that you can do whenever you look at these classes. Justin Jolie, I think, is a fun little tight end. Sean Payton continues to search for that joker. Dalen Bentley, another tight end I liked. Red Murdoch. Red Murdoch is basically Landon Roberts in my eyes. So fun class for them. But do we want to transition to talking about our Steelers before we get into some teams where we didn't really care for their drafts?
Yeah, we can talk about the Steelers. I just want to point out a couple more teams that I liked what they did.
Yes, go
Spoiler
for it.
alert, I really liked what the Chicago Bears did. I know they're kind of a hot button topic. I don't feel like a lot of people liked what the Bears did, but they're building this team in Ben Johnson's vision. And you go out and you get someone like Dylan Theineman in the first round who fell to you. I know a lot of mock drafts had him going much earlier than the 26th overall pick. Let's put it that way. And there's your Brisker replacement. There it is right there. You lose Brisker to the Steelers. Feineman can fill that role and then some. Let's put it that way. Logan Jones, I thought was fun. Obviously, the Drew Dahlman retirement is the biggest loss that the Bears suffered, and it's a huge one. They signed a center, but Logan Jones, I feel like at least is going to be in an open competition to win that center job. And again, I'm kind of with Ryan. I think he said this before we started recording. I'm not like completely sold on him, but he was a part of the best offensive line in college football. And Iowa centers, Iowa offensive linemen in general, they're a pretty solid investment. We saw the Steelers make an investment in one of them. Sam Roush is someone who Ryan and I are a big fan of. He was a lot of fun to
A lot of
watch
tight
at
ends
the
over
Senior
there.
Bowl. A lot of tight ends. I feel like teams took more tight ends than maybe ever. Tight ends were very popular this draft, but Sam Roush, obviously you already have Colson Loveland. You have Cole Kmet under contract still. Sam Roush is the Cole Kmet replacement. Sam Roush can block incredibly well. Sam Roush, I think, offers a lot of upside as a receiver. I think there's a lot of untapped potential there. And a Ben Johnson offense. They also ran that 13 personnel a lot. Obviously, nobody ran it more than the Rams. We even saw them invested Max Clare from Ohio State in their draft. But now the Bears have a legitimate, like, three-headed monster at tight end that they can use for at least a year, run that 13 personnel. I like that. And then I wasn't a fan of Xavier Thomas in the third round. I did not see that coming at all. But I did like the fourth and fifth round for the Bears. Malik
That
Muhammad
was
was
six.
someone I was a big fan of. I really liked him. He was one of my favorite guys at the Senior Bowl. And then our guy, Keyshawn Elliott, how was he still there? Round 5, pick 26. I really like that get for the Bears. Stick him in the
Yeah,
middle of the defense. That was really good.
for a guy that, like, I don't know, it was a weird fall to me because he was a green dot guy, so he ran the defense. He tested out well athletically. I know on the field that he's not like, he's not Fred Warner in his like ability to run crazy fast, but he runs plenty fast for a linebacker. And yeah, I don't know. I thought he was good. But I also really like Jordan Vandenberg as a 6th round swing. He's a very twitchy athlete. He maybe hadn't put it all together. You don't necessarily or have to have him be that as your 6th round pick at 213, but he's a fun little toolsy guy that they can kind of throw in. I was listening to a pod where they were talking about how they thought defensive line and edge would be a bigger focus for the Bears this draft than it was. And the Bears mostly stood pat. But Jordan Vandenberg is an interesting sort of like developmental, just freak athlete I think he was all ACC this year. So, fun little project there that I think is a pretty good 6th round swing as far as those go.
Yeah, I really like that. I will say, I I know everybody's first reaction when they saw the Jeremiah Love pick to the Cardinals was, what are they doing? I kind of see it. Am I crazy to say I kind of see it? When I look at their
Maybe.
entire class, you got Jeremiah Love, obviously, then Chase Besantis, guard. I liked that. Carson Beck, I guess, is like what you're betting on to be like your shot at a quarterback, but I think
I mean,
Jacoby
same with
Brissett is
yeah.
whatever. If nothing else, they're going to be a fun offense to watch that's going to chuck the ball down the field with Jacoby Brissett, and they're going to have Jeremiah Love. So I think if nothing else, they've given their fans something to sort of look forward to next year. I
Yeah,
still
and
don't think
Caleb
they're going to win
Proctor
a
is
lot
a
of games. Yeah.
fun pick
And
as
then
well.
one more team I'll mention here. The Dolphins, I didn't like Caden Proctor at 12, but there were a lot of things where I'm like, yeah, I like that. Namely, two of my favorite guys, Jacob Rodriguez and Kyle Lewis, going to a Jeff Halfley defense. That's phenomenal. That's wonderful. That's good for the agenda. I really liked that. Caleb Douglas in the third, I was kind of scratching my head. You traded back up into the first and you got Chris Johnson, who I thought was really solid as well. They were the team that got Chris Bell too. He was the second receiver that they took. They took another receiver in Kevin Coleman Jr.,
Oh, they
who's
didn't
kind
trade
of
up in the
fun.
first. That's the Waddle pick, isn't it?
Is that, yes, that is a Waddle pick. My bad.
That's the Waddle
Oh, they
pick. Yeah.
traded. No, they traded. I think they like traded back or something from that. And
Oh, they
then
probably
because this
moved
is the one from
around.
San
Sure.
Francisco. Yes, they moved around. But this is the Waddle pick. We can call it that in a
It's
roundabout
essentially the
way.
Waddle pick. They were able
Yeah.
to do this because they traded Waddle, right? So
Yes. And then what else did I want to pull out here? Max Llewellyn was fine in the 7th round. I liked Michael Taff in the 5th. There were
Will
a lot of
Kazmarek
shots.
is super fun. I like we can't not if we're on the tight end propaganda. Will Kazmarek is the best blocking tight end. He's a maniac. Uh, I don't know who's running the ball besides Ashan, but I love the idea of him springing an edge for Ashan. That's going to be a lot of fun. Chris Bell, after Caleb Douglas. There's a lot to like here. There's a lot of like, what is this? But there's also a lot of like, yeah, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely fair. So, do we want to talk about the Steelers? Do you want to start
Yeah,
things off with the Steelers? You can do that if you
yeah,
want.
yeah. And I mean, Joe, I was watching your videos over the weekend, and I don't know. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed because I think we disagree quite a bit on this class.
That's fair. I'm open for the discussion.
I mean, why don't we start with you? Because I just feel like there's an impassioned feeling here that I feel like it's better for me to come in after.
That's fair. So we'll start with, I guess I should preface this by doing what I've done in every Behind the Steel Curtain article. Ryan and I have done a fun little pros and cons series, I guess we've just kind of started, and it's been really well received. I do like, in a vacuum, the Max Iannacore pick. I like it. I think it works.
We
I think
talked
he's
about
going to
him here
come in
so
and
much.
be day one. He was
This is one of
Ryan's guy. I
this
was
is my
very happy
guy.
for
This
you.
isn't just one of my guys. This is my guy of the draft.
I was very happy for you. At the same time, the optics of the Steelers being on the phone with Mekhi Lemon and not having the awareness that they just got sniped and having to pivot is awful, especially when the draft is in your city. They got their chain snatched in front of their own fans. I like Max Iannacore. I think he's going to be fun. I don't care if he goes in and he's a 3-time All-Pro. This is how this pick will always be remembered. And I think you disagree with me on that, but I think that people are always going to look at this one and be like, oh yeah, they actually wanted Mekhi Lemon. They were on the phone with him. And this is really tough because Max Iannacore was your guy. Mekhi Lemon was my guy. He was my wide receiver one from the very
I know.
beginning. I
It was
didn't
like
let
they were
any,
pitted. It was
I did,
pitted.
it was perfect for us. I didn't let anybody go against me with the Carnell Tate or the Jordan Tyson or anything like that. I was like, no, it's Lemon. Like, he is dynamic. He is everything you want. He can do everything. He is the guy. And the Steelers were so close to having the guy. And I like Jeremy Bernard. I think he was the best receiver of the bunch that were available on day 2. But I would have felt even better if I had Mekhi Lemon on this football team.
There's so much to unpack here. For starters, I just want to say that was also like in the same moment. It was like a double dose of like your takes just fucking hit because not only was I so on the Max Iannacore trade, like even on the like days before when they were talking about, they might trade up for a lineman, I still didn't think we were going to trade up. So boom, got that right. We made 10 of the 12 picks. I was saying for months that like they're probably still going to spend double-digit picks. No one wanted to hear that on the money. Boom, got that one. So that's 2. And then my third one in the moment when that happened was, all this talk in the last like month of like, oh, Mekhi Lemon to the Rams, it's locked and loaded, silver bullet. And the whole time I've been like, guys, can we talk about how this profile of receiver, like the three receivers I want to compare him to, who he only went higher than I think he only went higher than like one of them, was CeeDee Lamb, who went 17th in his year. I want to say JSN, who went 20th, and then Justin Jefferson, who went 22nd. And I think if you hold those guys up against Mekhi Lemon, I maybe I'm wrong about this, but I do feel like most football people would put Mekhi Lemon 4th on that list. And so I was just like, he's going to at least make it to the 20s. Like, that's not surprising to me. That's totally in line with what draft value has been. It's kind of like us falling for the safeties. I fell for the safeties, but I wasn't falling for this. Mekhi Lemon was going to be 20 was his ceiling in my mind. And the fact that it was exactly 20 was, and then I got a Iannacore. Oh man, we were up just as
I'm happy
everybody
for
in
you.
Pittsburgh was down.
I'm happy for you.
It was such a jarring because I was so pumped, and then everywhere online, everyone was just a ball of negativity, and it was just kind of like, damn. Well,
Because
I'm gonna love this.
it did fall flat. And I'm going to say it every time. Iannacore is a good player. I like the pick. I'm happy with it. Every part of it fell flat for me. Every single part of it, because
you just got jerked the moment before because you thought you were getting your guy. So everything's
I
going to
had
be
my
shaded.
heart ripped out of my chest. I'm not afraid to admit it. It was upsetting. It was unbelievable that Omar Khan saw the guy that they wanted very clearly all along. Let me say this. Omar Khan was asked a question about Mekhi Lemon, his time spent with Mekhi Lemon, straight up before the draft. He was asked a specific question about Mekhi Lemon. I think whenever they're asked those type of questions, a lot of times they would just shrug it off. I think I said this in my Behind the Steel Curtain article. A lot of times they would shrug it off. He made a point to say it was excellent time spent. They very clearly loved Mekhi Lemon they were going to straight up take him over Max
I mean,
Iannacore.
what's he gonna say there though? Is he gonna say it was
I
like, you
mean,
know what I mean? Like
I,
obviously, like
I mean,
and it's Omar Khan. It's
he
Omar
could
Khan.
be like,
He's not like giddy with joy when he says it was excellent time spent. He
he
does
could be
his
like,
accounting thing of like excellent time spent. It was good.
could be like, yes, we met with 29 other prospects. Do you want to ask about them? Yeah,
And I think like the underrated part of all of this, is one, their intel was good enough that they knew Dallas was going defense. Everybody knew Dallas was going defense. And
yes.
there's the whole thing going on with the broadcast where the broadcast is behind what's actually happening behind the scenes. And so there's that element of it. And like, I don't know, if you're sitting there and you're one pick away and you have all your connections to Dallas and know they're going defense, I will say, yes, it sucks that somebody clearly was in communication and sent some wrong information back to Dallas, but it's kind of insane that Dallas traded with their biggest current modern era rival
That, yeah.
to give them an offensive weapon. Now, I do think it's funny that I actually think Mekhi Lemon, at least as long as Jalen Hurts is quarterback, is a terrible fit in Philadelphia because he plays almost exclusively in the area of the field that Jalen Hurts just does not access on purpose. And like, I don't want to see Eagles fans quoting us with like videos of Jalen Hurts throwing it 40 yards down the middle of the seam because that's not throwing to the middle of the field, and you know that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like let's not play like coy about it. So like, I don't know. It's just I just think it's funny. And like, even in the moment when I was like trying to come up with it, to me, this whole thing is like being bummed that you thought you had a shot at the last moment at the girl you had a huge crush on in high school. And then shortly after meeting your wife in college or something, you know, I feel like that's the situation the Steelers walked into. I'm going to start calling it the Immaculate Misconnection because I just think that this is going to be better for us long term.
It very well could be. But I also just think that I would much rather have, because this is the route the Steelers were going to go.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to take Mekhi Lemon, and then what would they have done in the second round is like the $1 million question. I don't know. I think
Could have been a
like
vote.
it could have been, who knows? It could have been anything.
Could be
But
anything. And honestly, I'm looking at it and I'm like assuming that they're not going for the double up on receivers. Like, let's just assume they're not going to then also take Jeremy Bernard, which maybe that's false to assume. We'll never know. Where are you going there? There's no tackles left. There was no
let's
tackle
see who
taken in the
went
second round.
shortly after Bernard was picked. Or we were, well, like
Well,
I'm looking at
and think about what the Steelers also positions they might have attacked.
Avion Terrell, Lee Hunter, D'Angelo Pons, Jake Golday, CJ Allen,
I'm not sure. No, you haven't named a person yet that I feel like
Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I feel like,
that's
but
like
like
the
they didn't.
only one you could maybe make the argument for. And like that would be interesting. But then you think about we took a wide receiver and a safety. Do you feel better about a wide receiver and a safety than you do about like a guy who legitimately does have the upside to be the best tackle in this draft class and a wide receiver that you just like know can play all three roles, is a certified blocker as far as wide
I,
receivers go? I don't know.
I'll raise you this too. I think that Iannacore, the pick, signals the end of Broderick Jones. That experiment's done. But the Steelers clearly felt confident enough in Broderick Jones that they were going to take a receiver over a tackle in the first round. What's that logic then? Then that kind of,
I think one of those third round picks then turns into Markel Bell or Travis Burke, who ended up not going to the fourth. So they probably would have ended up reaching on a tackle there. Because I don't think that they make Dunker a tackle. I just don't see that physically.
yeah, I don't. Yeah.
And that's a pick that I actually was probably my favorite of that round. And wasn't one that I thought I would really like. And the more I'm thinking about it, because to me, the main thing about this draft is when you zoom out and you look at what is the main declaration of this draft, to me, it became so crystal clear that it's like, yep, McCarthy is switching this from a wide like zone. We're not going to be running that as much. This is going to be a power gap offense. Like We have 5 like just butt kickers on the line. They're all young. They're all like assuming a Hanakor comes in and can contribute right away and like is he's I would say he's better as a pass protector than a run blocker currently, but if he kind of takes some of this like coaching from Campen, who has developed tackles in the past. He did Ike Iquanu in Carolina. He did David Bakhtiari back with the Green Bay Packers. So you're hoping he's still got some of that juice in him to get the best out of this tackle. He's not going to be uh, moving him around and making him a center or a guard or whatever is going to happen that we have grown accustomed to in recent years. And then you also went out in the 5th round, and I know that a lot of people like roll their eyes and yawned at this, but like this is another one that I called taking Riley Nowakowski. I didn't know when they were going to take him, but I was like, would put this one down with a bullet because he is exactly he's the height of Hunter Lepke and the like weight and power of John Kuhn. And you put him in one person that's and it's like those are Mike McCarthy's 2 fullbacks, and he just got the best of both of them. So I'm very excited to see that. I still don't know what our quarterback situation is. The longer, today's thing with Aaron Rodgers with the tag that they just put on him. Is it going to be Drew Aller? Is it going to be Will Howard? Is Aaron Rodgers being like cornered into retirement? I don't know, but I don't really care because as long as we take steps forward on the O line and are ready next year for what is supposed to be a much better quarterback class, even though I think it's going to be very competitive to get one. I just think there's a lot of positive directions on this offense and on the defense, other than just having our quarterback.
Yeah. So again, I like the Jeremy Bernard pick. I think that it was kind of funny that the whole talk was, oh, Omar Khan didn't trade up, and everybody was joking on Twitter, oh, he's going to make up for it by trading for Denzel Boston. I think I tweeted exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
He did trade up. It was kind of it can be looked at as kind of a lame attempt to appease everybody. I think that's completely fair. But Jeremy Bernard, I think, was the better fit out of the two. I would rather have Jeremy Bernard on this team over Denzel Boston. They needed a slot. Jeremy Bernard's kind of a bigger slot, kind of a power guy. He's going to draw the Deebo Samuel comp because he's great after the catch. He's really tough. He can take hits. I like Jeremy Bernard's game. I like it a lot.
He's Deebo who runs big boy routes, and he can also play the Z. He can play the X if you need him. He can play all 3.
I like it. And then I think another thing we disagree on, I don't think you like the Drew Aller pick as much as me. This is one I
get it. I don't like it.
I did not think they would take one this early. I think taking one at 76 is a bit adventurous, but I knew they were going to take a quarterback. I think they liked Drew Aller and Carson Beck the best out of the bunch of guys in those range. Clearly, it was Drew Aller all along. They get him at 76. That's a flag plant. I'm happy about it because, one, I've been begging for the Steelers to take a shot on a quarterback legitimately in an early round. This is my wish, I guess. And Drew Aller, I think, has the most upside of any quarterback in this draft. I mean, huge arm, 6'5", prototypical size. I like him. In my profile on him on Behind the Steel Curtain, I talked a lot about, I think he's better on the run than people give him credit for. I think he can throw on the run pretty well. The decision-making is not good. It's
I also
not
think
great.
That's where he gets into a lot of the trouble that he gets into because his mechanics are his main issue.
Fair. So again,
it's like, it's kind of like he's a roller coaster because like he'll give you an NFL throw and you're like, this is the guy. And then literally the very next play, he'll give you something where you're like, oh my God, what are you doing? That's not anywhere close to the position.
And this is why he's not going to start year one. He's going to have the self-proclaimed quarterback whisperer, Mike McCarthy, coach him up.
Quoted as talking to him about his footwork on the phone call with him. So,
there we go. There it is. I like this. This is the best shot that the Steelers have had at having a franchise quarterback since they drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round. Easily. I know the bar's low. I know the bar is on the floor. It's below the earth. But this is it. This is Drew Aller.
Sam Riley drafted Mason Rudolph. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah. They had a first round grade on Mason Rudolph.
I don't want to go too hard on it because like we do live in a post Josh Allen world. We do live in a post Sam Darnold figured it out to win the Super Bowl world. We figured it out in a post Geno Smith was a viable starter for a couple of years world. So like, I don't want to come in as like, this is impossible. This will never happen. but I don't know that I have any faith that it will happen. Is all we'll say. I see the traits that get people thinking that he's there. I can fix them, but can we count on it? Like if he doesn't start at all this year, and the Steelers have a legitimate chance to take a first round quarterback next year, I'm not stopping because we drafted Drew Aller this year. You know what I mean? That's
Oh
kind
yeah,
of where I feel
absolutely.
with it. And I do
Absolutely.
feel
I
like there's
agree with you.
fans that are going to fully disagree with that because I've already
There are.
seen them out and loud and thinking that he's going to be the guy now that Aaron Rodgers is who knows what's up with him. And, honestly, there is a world where he starts some games this year, even if Rodgers comes. So anything's possible. I'm keeping an open mind. And honestly, at this point, based on how the rest of the third round went, I don't know that it really matters that they took him with the first one over taking him with the third one. I think a lot of us thought that it was either going to be Aller here or Taylon Green or Cole Payton a round or two later.
Yeah.
I never understood the people that were linking Beck to them beyond the just idea that he was tall and had long arms. I think if you thought about it, it was like Aller was probably the guy. I think even in my last mock draft for our website, I did a thinking brain and a what the heart wants draft. I did two dueling ones. And then the thinking one, I gave him Drew Aller with the third pick. Turns out it was the third pick in the third round. Turns out it was the first pick. But I think if you thought about it for more than 5 minutes, you're like, Drew Aller's obviously the guy.
99 always felt like the quarterback sweet spot for them. And I feel like that's where we mocked one every single time because
And
it just
hell,
made
it was
sense.
a weird draft class. So maybe
It
they were just
was.
like, we're just not going to mess around.
Yep.
Maybe because why, Carson Beck's off the board already. Maybe if Carson Beck had also still been there, they would have waited. But since he wasn't, maybe that's why they were like, all right, let's just take him and not mess around.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then Dalen Everett, that one's fine to me. I'm not going to make any declarations on Everett. It was kind of
The most upsetting one was the wet gen Peck, and it's not even because I dislike wet gen at what his role is supposed to be.
It's
just that his role
awful
shouldn't
value.
be worth a fourth round pick.
It is so. I have people in my
Especially
comments.
when you take Heidenreich later.
Ryan, people in my comments are like, you won't be complaining when Weegen takes it back to the 40 every single time. Well, first of all, he won't do that. Second of all, it is objectively a silly use of resources to spend a top 121 pick on someone who is going to play kick returner, punt returner, and nothing else for you. That's his role.
Yeah, I don't believe the people that are like, he's a wide receiver. Like, someone showed me a clip of him at Shrine on a one-on-one drill where he got separation running a flat. And I'm like, no, guys, let's not overhype a Shrine Bowl rep that is pretty average, to be honest. Doesn't really tell you a lot about an in-game scenario because those are set up where the defense is already just you're going to go up against a TikTok route and then, you're on an island. It's not going to go up with the defense most of the time. So I don't really hold that against him. They just didn't use him. He's undersized. He's 5'9", 180, which is for me, that's a big no. It's the same reason I was never really huge on Calvin Austin. I don't think it's any debate now that we don't really miss that contribution. I don't think there's a lot of fans crying that Calvin Austin went out the door. I don't love it. The one the one I saw online was people being like, "You won't be complaining when he's got 2 kick return touchdowns next year," and I was like, there were potential defensive starters still on the board. So that's more valuable to me than maybe we get 2 kick return touchdowns during the life of his rookie career or something. I don't know. Would love to be 5th or 6th.
Whatever.
4 was a bit much.
If it was in the 6th, I wouldn't be complaining probably, but in the 4th is hilarious. Riley Nowakowski, what do you think he's going to play more of? I'm not.
Fullback. He's the fullback. They announced him as a fullback.
Fifth
he
rounder
can play
on a
tight end if you need
fullback.
him.
Whatever. It's just whatever. I'm not going to jump out of my seat for that.
I mean, sure, but if you look,
I feel
at
like we did know
offense,
McCarthy was going to take a tight end or a fullback. He was going to get a fullback.
Fullback has played 33% of the snaps in Mike McCarthy's offense. John Kuhn and Lutke each played over 30% of the snaps. This is going to be an important role. And for a team that's like already got Darnell Washington and just like committed to having like some big nasties up the middle, I don't know. I'm excited for the power running game because they're leaning into it in a way that I they're not half-assing it. They're fully leaning into it. So I'm just gonna be excited for when we actually have a power running game that actually takes a lot of pressure, hopefully, off of our running backs, and we don't have a left tackle who is looking around for what's his assignment in the middle of the play and then blows the whole play up.
Yep.
Or a
Gabe.
fullback, goodbye Connor Hayward, who also did that a lot until last year.
Yes. But welcome back the Connor Hayward role, I guess.
So
Supersized.
far superior though. So superior though.
Gabe Rubio. This one is bad. This one is really bad. There's no two ways around this. It was not ranked on ESPN. Did not have a position rank. He still doesn't have a picture on the team website. He's the only guy that doesn't have a headshot. This is, I
mean, I get it.
It's
I
six
didn't
rounds,
love it in the moment
so
either.
whatever. But
I didn't love it in the moment either, and I do think it's maybe not smartly playing with value because I think maybe he could have been your last 7th round pick.
Yeah.
But the little tape I have seen, he is kind of a monster against the run. I do kind of like his way to take on doubles. So, you know, I can be swung around if he gets into camp and can stay healthy and is awesome because like if he's legitimately can plug the run, we haven't had a guy who's really good at that in the middle of the defense in a minute. So I mean we got Hayward and Harmon are showing promise, but that nose spot's been a real. So if they can find a guy who's valuable there, I will take back all my ventings in the moment when it happened.
And then Robert Spears Jennings, I like this one. I thought they were going to go safety much, much earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And Spears Jennings is fine. Ran a 4.32 at the combine. He's fast. He plays well downhill. Like a lot of their safeties, they clearly have a type, and it's guys that can play well towards the line of scrimmage. Spears Jennings is that. Don't think he'll get much time, if any at all. It's safety his rookie year. He'll be a special teams guy, but developmental 7th round. Nothing to be upset about, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, not my favorite. There was still a guy that I liked a lot more that they could have gotten over this. Obviously, I've said this before. VJ Payne, who fell to the 7th, which was gross. I don't know why that happened. I come find me in a year or two when everyone's like, "Oh, that who's nice." VJ Payne, but because it'll be 2 years. I'm always early, yeah. So we'll go with that. But like Spears Johnson, I think he's more athlete than football player at this point. But if you can get him on the practice squad and maybe get him to play special teams, maybe I think special teams is probably where he's gonna make an impact this year if he does make the team.
Yeah. And then Eli Heidenreich in the 7th round. This is the fan favorite. This one's awesome. This is what I'll say. I think it's interesting. McCarthy basically said, "Oh yeah, we're going to open up the playbook for this guy." Now McCarthy likes to blow a lot of smoke up our asses with all of the Will Howard
used
stuff.
Car salesman of the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, if Heidenreich gets a touch here and there, yeah, sure. I think he is very fun with the ball in his hands. Played literally every single position on the offense for Navy. He was the Navy offense over the last couple of years. Him and Blake Horvath. It was a fun little duo for the midshipmen. So I feel good story. Mount Lebanon High School alum. This is just a cool one. It was a really cool. His
awesome
walk out to the stage
on the broadcast.
Oh, it was one of the best moments of the entire draft, bar none.
I do feel like this makes the wedge end pack even more confusing because Heidenreich also has kick return ability. So like, why did we need to spend so much to get him if we had him? But I just am curious to see how they actually deploy him. It feels like the early implications are they're leaning more wide receiver than running back. I kind of feel like I would do it the opposite way, but I am intrigued at the idea of like getting him a summer learning from our boy Ben Skowronek. If we can get him to maybe like tone up a little bit, like if he takes like a year, if he gets a year, if we're able to sneak him on the taxi and hold him and not lose him for a year and kind of get him in an NFL weight room, jack him up just a little bit. Could we see him doing some of the roles that Skowronek does and then also having more playmaking ability? That's an intriguing. I don't know that we'll ever actually invest enough in a 7th round pick to actually see that come to fruition. But it is fun to think about if it does happen.
Yeah. All right. So that's the Steelers draft. I guess we'll move on. We did all our fun stuff. We did some ones where we're like, yeah, this was all right. Let's talk about some ones we straight up hated. I think
Yeah.
I just posted a video on my YouTube. I gave the Steelers draft grade a C minus. C minus. What's your draft grade for the Steelers?
I don't remember what I said. I think I gave them just a straight up B. I don't think I might have given them a B minus. It might have been a B plus. I think this was just your classic meat and potatoes draft where it's like, if you came in and like, this is an A draft, everyone would be like, what the hell are you talking about? But I do think this is like one of those drafts that like, I'd see the avenues where this is a draft that people think is like, in the moment. And then we look back on a couple years and are like, Steelers solidified their offensive line. The fullback's dope. They turned this corner into somebody that can actually contribute on defense. The world where Drew Aller becomes an actual viable. McCarthy cleans up his feet and he starts making better choices. And I don't think he's ever going to be like amazing because right now I feel like he's going to live in the David Mills world, but but
Davis Mills is a
Davis
fun
Mills
backup. He's a really fun
Davis
backup.
Mills is a fun backup, sure. I feel like he's gonna live somewhere in there with a more live arm that'll make you go, "What if he could be the starter?" And then he just never quite puts it all together is what's most likely to happen. But I don't know. There's a world where you look back and this class has several starters,
Yeah.
and we look at this as like the team setting the ecosystem for whoever the future starter is.
And I do think that in my grade, I don't think it's fair to your grade on the Iana core pick. I don't think it's fair to include the optics of the Mekhi Lemon situation into that. But as the class of a whole, I think that heavily affects it because they had to pivot. It was clear that they were a little bit unaware of their surroundings and their situation when they were on the clock or about to be on the clock. That to me affects the whole thing and throws everything off. But it's small potatoes, I guess, at the end
Mhm.
of the day. Draft classes we hated. Is there one that you're willing to just
Well,
talk about right now off the top of your head?
I feel like, yeah, the one that I want to pivot to, just because I think we just have a bunch of Steelers fans who are going to either love what we just said or hate what we just said, and it's going to be pretty divided. Why don't we list the first one we hate is Cincinnati, because I did not care for this.
Yes. That one was bad.
We'll
So, I
start with
mean,
saying that they traded away the 10th overall pick to get a 29-year-old nose tackle who people are questioning if he peaked and will ever perform at the level he has. I think Dexter Lawrence is still awesome, but uh, it was very out of character for Cincinnati to make that trade.
yeah, I wouldn't have given the 10th pick for Dexter Lawrence and given
I
him
wouldn't
all
have
that
either.
money. I
If you
wouldn't have
want
done
to stay
that.
late first,
The
but
10th pick we're talking about here.
the 10th pick
They
where
could
you
have
could have had
Caleb
Caleb Down,
Downs. That's the
Ruben
one you're gonna be
Bain.
looking at. Could have been Ruben Bain. Yeah, I'm taking both those guys on a rookie contract over Dexter Lawrence for $30 million a year. I just am. Sorry.
Mhm. Yeah. So I don't love that one. And then it's like you come back and your first pick is Cassius Howell, who is one of those guys where it's like maybe he's awesome, or maybe you bet on an outlier who has really short arms and who wins in a finesse sort of way rather than with power. And so when he gets to the NFL, maybe he has trouble translating that because he doesn't have the one thing that no matter what else is going on with you as a player wins in the NFL. If you can move somebody, you're going to be able to stick around. If you're a finesse guy and then the finesse ain't finessing, you're not long for the league. It's just the way it is. And then their next pick, their second pick, Tacario Davis, a long limbed guy who runs really fast in a straight line, but he's not super quick laterally. And, there's a world where we're laughing at him like he's Eli Apple in a couple of years. I do like Connor Liu, and I do like Brian Parker and Landon Robinson. And some of these picks are guys that we all liked as like sleepers, but I just seeing the whole picture, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't really know. I'm
Kobe
not a
under the
fan of what they
fourth
did.
was a huge reach, and maybe he ends up being awesome and we're all crazy. But like, I don't know. I just don't love betting on guys who didn't produce in college. That seems scary to me.
Yeah. Um, a class that I hated and I think is pretty widely accepted that this one is pretty bad is the 49ers. And I have a bit of a soft spot for John Lynch because he was really cool and he gave me a really cool answer at the combine. But his drafting is it's there. I don't know if you saw Grant Cohn's question where he was basically like, your board deviates very much from the consensus, and basically everybody says you reaches. What's your reaction to that? And he was like, well, we have consensus in this building. If your consensus is that DeJon Stribling is worth the 33rd overall pick, that's not a good consensus, objectively. That receiver room's pretty ugly. It's Mike Evans on the
I
wrong side of 30, who
I don't
very
know. That's not
injury
the pick I'm
prone.
highlighting of why I dislike their draft. I actually do like Strickland quite a bit, and
I
had been hearing that he was like going to be a second round guy. It seemed like the closer we got to the draft, so maybe that was just people that knew that the 49ers were much higher on him than everybody else. But I don't know. I think he's a pretty great third and Juwan replacement. I think he like immediately fills that role for them and like has way more juice after the catch than Juwan ever did, while still having a lot of the same blocking strengths.
Yeah. Romello
Mm.
height, I was fine with, honestly.
See, that's a guy
Um,
I had was much lower on him than everybody else. He's older, shorter, but no power.
and
I didn't like that.
I think Kalen Black is the one where everybody can agree, yeah,
Like if
that
he's a
one was
fifth rounder, you
wild.
love it. If he's a fifth or sixth rounder, you love it. But taking him there,
That one was wild, dude. That was not
it,
a fan of
it
that one at
it's
all.
so funny to me too because you talk about the like, and I have a lot of friends that are like 49er fans, and so it's like a meme at this point. The third round running back that the 49ers are going to take and never let see the light of day. And it's so funny because like I compared Kalen Black in the process when I was trying to figure out who he reminded me of. I was like Tevin Coleman, noted Shanahan guy,
Yeah,
Tevin Coleman.
yeah,
So it is very funny that obviously they saw that and were like, not my analysis, but saw probably something similar to what I was seeing, and we're like, that's our guy.
yeah.
I love the draft. The draft's amazing.
The draft's the best. And the 49ers, they're going to win. Like, they're literally going to go out there and win 10, 11 games, maybe 12 this year.
Maybe not because of
And
these guys.
who cares? Definitely, maybe Stribling. Maybe Stribling is wonderful,
Stribling can
and
be
they hit on
awesome.
that.
You like Grayson Halton a lot, don't you?
I do like Grayson Halton. I did like this one. This was probably my favorite pick they made by far. I think the getting him in the 4th round straight up, I really, really liked that. He was ESPN's 8th best defensive tackle. I think he was had to have been inside my top 10 on the positional rankings. I
He
forget
was.
exactly
In
where
fact,
he was.
you're the main reason I think I ended up moving him up my board because I was kind of dismissing him as sort of just a rotational guy. And then you were so high on him that I was like, okay, I got to go see a little bit more of him. And then the more I sat
He's
with,
got some good moves. That's what I
yeah, I
like
mean, I
about
don't
him.
think I
He's
think the
got a
fourth
deep
round is
bag.
appropriate,
Oh yeah. I
but
think
like,
that's fair.
but he's a fun guy. And then the other one, like, man, it's tough when there's these guys that you like meet in the process and you really like them and you're like, but they're probably this value. And then they get picked a lot higher than that. And you're like, my analysis brain is like Carver Wilson the fourth is a bit much for a guy who doesn't really have a position right now. I think he can be very awesome. And I see why they like him because I compare him a lot to, oh man, the guy on the Colts that they just brought out this year. He was on my original gems list, but like little undersized weight wise, like and like so lacking a little bit of power, but really, really good like agile mover. And that's Carver Willis. But man, like he was like projected as like 7th round or priority free agent. And so to take him at 127, I was like both appalled and like so proud and happy for him in the same moment. He was a guy who's one of my favorite interviews at the Senior Bowl. A really down to earth guy. His sister played football, and that's what got him playing football. Was that his older sister played football for the high school up until I think she was a sophomore or junior. Um, and warms up to classical music.
Does he
Like
really?
yeah, yeah, he had a
Interesting.
composer. We actually both had a composer we really like. He's got an Italian name, so I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce it here because I'm not confident that I've ever said it correctly. But just like, I don't know. seemed like a guy with a really good head on his shoulders. And uh, it's funny that he, went to school in Seattle and now he's going to their biggest rival in the NFL. But uh, I wish him luck and I hope he's awesome. But like, if you're going off of like, hey, your consensus is all jacked, he's a prime example.
Yeah.
And
All
Jaden
right.
Duggar is also interesting. He
That
was a
wasn't bad.
visit that the Steelers brought in, 6'5" linebacker from Louisiana. It's fun, but it's like, man, you spent a fifth when people were thinking he'd maybe be a seventh, maybe a free agent,
Yeah.
So that's tough. Should I throw one out there?
Yeah. We'll go one more each that we straight up did
Okay,
not
one
like.
more each. Okay, I got to pick between these two. I think I'm going to go with New England then. It was between Atlanta and New England for me. Sorry, Falcons fans. We're gonna say you're bad and then also talk about another team. But but New England was they had like
Yeah.
one pick that I really liked, one of my favorite players, but the rest of their class was all players I was like, I no. So like Caleb Lomu, interesting
Very.
pick when you consider their current roster construction, because there's the questions about is Will Campbell really a tackle? Caleb Lomu was the tackle like I was worried the Steelers would potentially end up with if they ended up trading back or like waited and had to go to a tackle for whatever reason, because I just don't know that he likes hitting people, and that seems important to me as a
Yeah.
tackle.
That's pretty
And
important.
I heard plenty of podcasts where they're like, the Steelers really should try to replace Broderick Jones, and they'd mock us a tackle, and a lot of times they'd already sent everybody else, and so they'd go, well, Hidekor is a right tackle, and the Steelers really need a left tackle, so we'll give them Lomu. And I'm like, no, no, don't do that. So I'm glad he went to New England, but I just don't see how he fits in that lineup. Gabe Akers is awesome. He totally makes sense there for them. I love that. But the rest of it, like Raritan is this like, is he going to be better as a pro? He was like a guy that was projected as like, day three. He goes in round three. Can't say I know much about the Wake Forest cornerback who was projected to be an undrafted free agent that went in the fifth round. Crownover, uh, the main thing about Crownover that is to like is his length. The main thing to dislike about Crownover is his posture and his general playing of the tackle position. He's very raw. He's like if you can fix what's wrong with him technically, then maybe you've got something, but that's a big if. We've already talked about how we don't really care for the TCU linebackers too much. I thought they were fast and not really much else. Uh, Baron Morton going before our boy Nuss, but
Yeah.
teams just really hated his size and that cyst on his spine, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess so.
Jam Miller adds to that. Quintavious Hutchins, I actually like as a seventh round dart throw as an edge, but man, I just look at that class and it just seemed like a team that didn't have its house in order, which is funny considering all the current events.
Yeah. All good points. I'll say just before I say one team that I hated, I think that I wanted to talk about them more in like some all right, but others I'm like, whatever. The Colts, I think, had a pretty decent draft, all things considered. They didn't have a first round pick. They traded it for Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
They don't have a 27 first, which is a crime against humanity. We can talk about that later. But CJ Allen, getting him late second, I thought that was really, really
Mhm.
good. AJ Halsey was a guy that I like a lot. He hits really hard. That's all you need to know about AJ Halsey. He goes for the ball and he's going to hit you very, very hard.
Mhm.
Jalen Farmer is a fun guard pick. I like
All
that.
about
Getting
your
our guy
Garrett from the mid rounds.
getting our guy Bryce
Brett
Bector in the
Becker,
fourth round. That was fun. I like that. Good job, Colts. I think they had a pretty solid draft, all things considered.
I still am very down on them in general next year,
Yeah.
and with a lot of the choices
Yeah.
they made right around the deadline that I think really might have put the nail in the coffin finally for Chris Ballard within the next year and a half. But
The all
like,
in with Daniel Jones strategy will go down
and then he
as the
immediately
strategy
gets
of all time.
just immediately gets brutally hurt in a way that you're like, man. And
Like
then, and then
you
didn't Sauce Gardner also tear an Achilles, or I might be wrong on that.
he
So,
had like some
and
weird hamstring stuff, but he
he
did
had a
miss some
serious
time.
injury though
Yeah.
that was concerning,
Yeah.
like immediately after trading a first for him. So like
2 firsts for him.
2 firsts for him. That's right.
Rule number 1 that we're going to preach on this podcast, and maybe I'm going to be the one that preaches this. Do not trade your 2027 first. Do not do it. It is a terrible idea. It might be the worst decision you can possibly make. There's a reason, all these AJ Brown rumors. There's a whole other situation going on, but we're not here to talk about that. We're talking about, it's been reported it's going to be a 2027 first or a 2028 first. Do
We
you
believe that
think?
though.
I think that there's some smoke to that. I think that
I
a
could see the
lot of
28,
teams, oh yeah, if you're able to send a 2028
but
first for him, I'm doing
I don't
that.
know. Just with some of the trades we've seen recently with wide receivers, they're pulling first. So
I
like, why would you give up
I
a
don't know.
2027?
I
I just
certainly
don't.
wouldn't give up a 2027 first.
I sure wouldn't.
There's no way. But we have to talk about our friend James Gladstone down in Duval.
Oof.
I mean,
Duval.
we'll just start with the good. Emmanuel Pregnon, I thought was fantastic value. That was a good pick. I liked that.
For how far
Everything
he fell,
else,
totally.
everything else, man. No.
Reminder that they didn't have a first, because they gave that away for the 2-for-1 deal of Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
That's going swimmingly. That's been an amazing first pick. There's nothing that's gone wrong there. Then their first pick of this draft was a guy that I was saying the Steelers should be looking at in like the 5th, 6th, 7th round because he had 36 catches, but he's a really good blocker. Nate Bokercher, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
They actually went Texas A&M back to back to start. Albert Regis, another one. I don't know anybody that had him day 2.
Very early.
Very, very early. Jalen
Um,
Husky, a guy I liked. I don't know
I
anybody
was
that had him day 2.
I wasn't super high on Jalen Husky, but yes, especially in day 2.
Jalen Husky, I will just say, is like not dynamic in coverage, but if you're looking for a downhill safety, he is a very solid player. And then they just got real weird with it. Like it was already weird, but it's like Wesley Williams in the 4th. Tanner Koziel was like the closest to consensus. He's like the only one that I think got drafted maybe around. It depends who you want because people were all over with tight end rankings. He's a very raw, very tall prospect who not very polished, probably not going to be much of a blocker. But they got him in the 5th. Josh Cameron, sort of a shorter contested catch guy. I don't know about that one in the 6th. I can't say I watched a lot of Stanford this year for CJ Williams. Zach Dufree was an edge at Washington, but I saw Washington plenty this year, and I wasn't really. I thought pass rush was one of their biggest weaknesses, to be honest. And then Parker Hughes, Montana State. Is that, or is that Middle Tennessee?
Middle
MTSU.
Tennessee. Middle
Yeah,
Tennessee.
can't say I know a lot about him, but the last 3 picks they had were all players that were consensus boards essentially had them as UDFAs. So
Yeah, none of the last 3 picks were ranked on ESPN at all. Josh Cameron was that was all right, I guess, in the 6th
we
round,
knew who he
whatever.
was.
We knew who he was. It was a name that people knew. I can't say the same for any of the other guys, unfortunately.
Yeah.
James
So I don't
Gladstone,
know.
what are we doing?
Diddy Hauser is as I like to call him. I don't know that he is much good at his job.
I think his saving grace is that Liam Cohen is a very, very good football coach. That is
Yeah.
his saving grace right now.
I think that's true. Because this legitimately, and like maybe we are crazy, and this is like ends up being a super meat and potatoes draft, and they find if they even get 3 or 4 diamonds in the rough out of this draft, then it's success for them, obviously. But like, I don't know, man. This is and the thing too is like, why did they draft? I don't know. I don't understand the 6th round wide receivers. Like wide receiver is not a position
Yeah,
that the
that
Jaguars
is
seem
the
to be
last
short on.
position they need, honestly.
So that's weird. Pregnon's like the most solid pick here. He fell quite a ways, I think, just simply because he's 25. Will be 25 this season. Um, I think that's the most solid pick they got. I do like Jalen Husky. I do like Nate Boerkircher, but not at those prices. It's like walking into a store and being like, let me just pay double for everything I buy here.
Yeah. All right. Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Whose draft did you like? Whose draft did you dislike? What did you think of the Steelers draft? Whose side are you more on as far as the way things fell for the Steelers? We'll call it that. Thank you guys for listening and watching. As always, we'll be back very, very soon. We're going to jump right in 2027 content. I'm sure we'll talk about this 2026. I'm sure we will a couple more times, but we're full steam ahead. We're already looking at 2027. It is slated to be one of the better draft classes in recent memory. Let's put it that way. I'm being conservative when I say that. Very conservative. Going to be a fun class, but like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We'll see you guys later.